She sat across from me, young, radiant, and full of this effortless energy that somehow lit up the entire coffee shop. I'm 48. A man who's been through life, built a career, overcome real battles. But in that moment, I felt like a teenage boy on his very first date. Then she asked, "So, how old are you?" And suddenly, my palms started to sweat. I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you this because despite everything I thought I knew about dating, women, and being a man, I found myself falling into the exact traps that so many older men fall into when dating younger women. I worried about my age. I tried too hard to impress. I overthought every word, every gesture. And guess what? The date ended 20 minutes later. No follow-up, no second chance. And it left me wondering, how could a man who's been through so much, who's built so much, lose his footing so quickly in front of someone half his age? If you've ever felt that same way, unsure, second-guessing yourself, feeling like you're out of her league, or if you're simply looking to understand why attraction with younger women feels so different and how to approach it with calm, grounded confidence, then this video is for you. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 10 most common mistakes older men make with younger women, the psychology behind female attraction, especially across age gap, and most importantly, how to flip your disadvantages into strengths without pretending to be someone you're not. This isn't about tricks or manipulation. This is about real confidence. The kind that comes from understanding your own value and knowing how to show up as the man you already are, just more intentional and self-aware. Before we dive in, let me ask you one thing. Have you ever found yourself acting smaller, shrinking your voice, just because she was younger, beautiful, or seemed out of reach? If your answer is even a hesitant yes, stick around. Because the first mistake we're going to tackle is one almost every man makes without realizing it. Let's get into it. Idolization trap. Why putting her on a pedestal kills attraction. Let me tell you about Rick. Rick is 53, lives in Austin, owns a successful consulting business. He's smart, stable, articulate, the kind of man many would describe as having it all. And yet, Rick hasn't had a second date in nearly a year. When he told me about a woman he recently met at a startup conference, his eyes lit up. She's like an angel. Young, sharp, stunning. I honestly couldn't believe she said yes to lunch. He meant it as a compliment. But what he didn't see, and what became painfully clear later, was that he had already placed her above himself before the date even started. During lunch, Rick was overly polite. He agreed with everything she said. He tiptoed through the conversation, terrified of saying anything wrong. He wasn't showing up as a man. He was showing up as an applicant. Needless to say, there was no second lunch. Rick fell into the idolization trap, treating her like a prize to be won instead of a person to connect with. And when you do that, you immediately lower your value in her eyes. Why? Because people mirror what you believe about yourself. If you act like you don't deserve her, she'll start to believe you're right. You might think you're being respectful, but what you're really projecting is insecurity masked as admiration. You turn the date into a performance. You stop being present. You lose your edge. You don't need to be cold or arrogant to hold your ground. You just need to see her for what she truly is. Not a goddess, not a fantasy, just a human being with her own insecurities, her own quirks, her own fears. Attraction isn't born from worship. It's born from equality, from two people meeting on the same level, both choosing each other, not one chasing while the other decides. Now here's the thing. Rick's mistake didn't end with putting her on a pedestal. It got worse. The moment she asked a question that most older men dread, a question that, handled the wrong way, can drain all the confidence out of a conversation and make her question if you're as self-assured as you seem. The age question, how to own your number without apology. Let me tell you about another friend of mine, James, 46, recently divorced, starting to date again after almost 15 years out of the game. He met someone amazing on a dating app, a 26-year-old creative director, witty, confident, sharp. Their text banter was playful and fun. They finally agreed to meet for a drink, and everything was going great until she looked at him with a sly grin and asked, "So, how old are you?" Really? James froze. He chuckled nervously, shifted in his seat, took a sip of water to buy time. Then he muttered, "I'm, 6. Is that too old?" And just like that, the energy shifted. She didn't say anything harsh, but something in her eyes changed, not because of the number he said, but because of the way he said it. Here's the thing most men miss. It's not the age that turns her off. It's the insecurity about the age. When you treat your age like a problem, you invite her to see it that way too. You broadcast the message, "I'm not sure I belong here. Please still accept me." And if you're not sure you belong, why should she be? In reality, age can be a magnet if you own it. It signals experience, emotional maturity, perspective, stability, all the things that many younger women are actively looking for, but only if you present it with ease and confidence. You've got two two powerful options: playful or direct. Both work, depending on your personality. Say it with a wink. Oh, I'm way too old for you. You'd get tired of my jazz playlist at 9 p.m. bedtime. Or let's just say I was around when the iPod was still cool. This diffuses tension, gets a laugh, and signals that you're comfortable in your own skin. If humor isn't your thing, go simple. I'm 47. Small pause, slight smile. Then casually shift the energy back. What about you? What's something you've done in life that made you feel 10 years older? See what happened there. You owned your number and steered the conversation into deeper connection, not awkward defense. Confidence reframes age from a liability into an asset. Don't apologize for your experience. Stand tall in it. You've lived, learned, and grown through things she's only beginning to understand. And that's not something to hide. It's something to offer. Now let's be honest. One of the reasons many men panic when asked about age is because they believe it's their only card to play. They don't trust their personality, their presence, or their story. So they fall back on the one thing they think will impress her: their success, their bank account, their career. And that brings us to one of the most dangerous traps older men fall into: money flexing versus value signaling, how to show success without becoming a wallet. A few years back, I met Daniel, 51, a successful real estate investor from Miami. Sharp suit, Rolex, custom shoes. The man looked like he walked off the cover of GQ for grown-ups. He wasn't flashy in a loud way, but he made sure you noticed he had money. Daniel told me he was dating a woman nearly 20 years younger. She was fun, spontaneous, and seemed genuinely into him. At first, he'd take her to expensive restaurants, surprise her with gifts, Uber her to and from work, even paid off a small credit card bill one month. And then one day, poof, she disappeared. No explanation. No, it's not you. It's me. Just silence. Daniel was confused, even hurt. I did everything right, he said. I treated her well. I took care of her. I never said no. And that's when I gently asked him, did she fall for you or for what you gave her? A lot of older men, especially those who've worked hard to achieve success, start believing that money is their biggest value in the dating world. And in some ways, it makes sense. You've built a life, you want to share it. You want her to see that you're capable, generous, solid. But here's the trap. When you lead with money, you attract people who are drawn to money, not character, not connection, not shared values, just access. And even if the relationship starts well, it eventually crumbles because you've built it on transactions, not depth. A lot of older men, especially those who've worked hard to achieve success, start believing that money is their biggest value in the dating world. And in some ways, it makes sense. You've built a life. You want to share it. You want her to see that you're capable, generous, solid. But here's the trap. When you lead with money, you attract people who are drawn to money, not character, not connection, not shared values, just access. And even if the relationship starts well, it eventually crumbles because you've built it on transactions, not depth. Money should be part of the picture, not the entire painting. When you share your values, your stories, your passions, and then she realizes you're also financially solid, that's when it clicks. Because now, she's not just impressed by what you have, she's moved by who you are. But here's another subtle mistake many men make when trying to prove their worth. They don't flash cash. They don't brag. Instead, they try to be helpful, supportive, generous with their time and advice. And before they realize it, they've slipped into a role they never intended to play. The mentor mode, why teaching her can kill the spark. I remember getting coffee one afternoon with a guy named Michael, 55, retired early, former tech exec, stoic demeanor but kind eyes. He just started dating a 29-year-old woman named Emily, an up-and-coming designer building her own brand. They had great conversations. He told me. She said she appreciated his advice, even admired how much he knew about the business world. But after a few weeks, things cooled off. No more flirty texts, no weekend plans. Eventually, she just faded out. Michael was confused. I was supporting her, guiding her, helping her navigate things she was struggling with. Isn't that what a good partner does? I paused, smiled gently, and asked Michael, did you want to date her or mentor her? Older men often fall into mentor mode without realizing it. It comes from a good place. You want to be useful, show your value, share what life has taught you. But if you're not careful, you'll start to sound more like a coach, a boss, or a dad instead of a romantic partner. And here's the truth most guys miss. Respect doesn't equal attraction. She might admire your experience. She might appreciate your insights. But that doesn't mean she's drawn to you. Romantic energy fades when one person becomes the authority. You create a dynamic where she's learning and you're teaching, and that's rarely where real chemistry thrives. Instead of always solving problems or offering unsolicited advice, try this. Be curious, not corrective. Instead of, you should do X, say, That's interesting. What made you go with that route? Instead of, in my experience, say, want to hear what I learned the hard way. Only if she asks, let her lead sometimes. Let her figure things out. And let the relationship breathe with playfulness, not feel like a strategy session. You don't need to prove your wisdom. It's already in how you carry yourself. Your calm, your clarity, your presence. Don't lead with lectures. Lead with lightness. Because what she's drawn to isn't just your knowledge. It's your ability to make her feel seen, safe, and desired. Now, sometimes men do the exact opposite of being the mentor. They don't try to give advice, they don't over-explain, but instead, they go to the other extreme. They start chasing youth, they change their clothes, their speech, even their hobbies, trying to fit into her world instead of inviting her into theirs. And that's where we're heading next. Aging gracefully. How to be irresistible without pretending to be 25 again. Let me introduce you to Brian. Divorced, newly single, and eager to get back out there. When he showed me his dating profile, I had to pause. Ripped jeans, flat brim hat, graphic tee with some slang phrase I didn't even recognize. His bio, full of emojis, described himself as a young soul vibing with Gen Z energy. I looked at him, this intelligent, well-read, kind-hearted man, and gently asked, Brian, is that you, or is that who you think she wants you to be? He sighed and said something I'll never forget. I just don't want to seem old, you know? That right there, that fear, it's more common than most men admit. But here's the paradox. The moment you try to look or act younger, you actually make yourself seem older, trying too hard to appear young. In how you dress, speak, or behave, sends a very specific message. I don't like where I am in life. I wish I were someone else. And that's not attractive. Because real attraction comes from self-acceptance, not mimicry. Younger women aren't drawn to older men because they dress like 25-year-olds. They're drawn to older men because they've lived through more, learned from life, and carry themselves with a certain grounded confidence. When you trade that away for TikTok slang and skinny jeans, you lose your edge. It's not about giving up. It's about leveling up. With dignity, style, and self-respect. Wear clothes that fit you well, not what's trending. Tailored, timeless, effortless. Prioritize grooming, clean nails, sharp haircut, fresh breath. Details matter. Focus on energy over age. Take care of your health. Get good sleep. Move your body. And most importantly, speak from who you are, not who you're trying to imitate. A woman doesn't need you to know the latest memes. She needs to know that you're comfortable in your own skin. That's more magnetic than any slang ever will be. Your age isn't something to hide. It's something to honor. There's power in saying, this is me. I know who I am. I've got nothing to prove and everything to offer. When you show up that way, mature, intentional, and unapologetically yourself, you stand out. Not because you're chasing youth, but because you embody what youth quietly craves. Depth, presence, and certainty. But here's something that might surprise you. Even when a man looks great, speaks well, and owns his age, he can still lose the spark. Simply by dominating the conversation, not with bad jokes or awkward silences, but by talking too much about himself. His career, his titles, his awards, his investments. And without realizing it, he's turned the date into a TED Talk. Oversharing achievements, why your resume doesn't make her feel anything. Let me tell you about Kevin, a 49-year-old CEO from Sandia. Smart, successful, self-made. The kind of guy who gets invited to speak at conferences and has his own golf club locker with his initials engraved on it. Kevin went on a date with a younger woman he met through mutual friends. Over dinner, he talked about his early startup struggles, his IPO story, the nonprofit he funds in Kenya, and how he just bought a second home in Aspen. He thought he was being open, inspirational, but when he reached out the next day to follow up, her reply was simple and polite. You're amazing. I just don't think we really clicked. Kevin was confused. What did I do wrong? He asked me. And I told him, gently, you told her what you've done, but you never showed her who you are. Here's what a lot of high-achieving men get wrong. You believe that sharing your success will raise your value in her eyes. And in a business context, that's absolutely true. But in a romantic context, all those accomplishments, impressive as they are, don't mean anything unless they make her feel something. Dates are not interviews. She's not vetting your resume. She's searching for presence, for emotional engagement, for warmth. When you overload the conversation with your achievements, it can come across as self-centered, even if your intentions are good. It can feel like you're talking at her instead of with her. Keep your accomplishments in your back pocket, not on a presentation slide. Let your success reveal itself slowly. Through stories and context, ask her about her goals, her experiences, her worldview. Match every fact about yourself with a question about her. For example, instead of, I built my company from the ground up, try, I love building things from scratch. Do you get more excited starting something new or making something better? See the shift. You're now building a bridge, not a pedestal. True connection doesn't come from impressing. It comes from engaging. And the more present you are, the more curious, the more emotionally available, the more she'll want to know about you. Not because you told her, but because she felt something in your presence. Your story matters, but how you share it matters more. Now let's be honest. Even if your words are perfectly measured, even if your questions are thoughtful and your tone is gentle, there's something else speaking loudly. Even before you say a single word, it's your appearance, your presence, the way you carry yourself into the room. And when that part of you is neglected, it can quietly undo everything else. Neglecting your physical presence, the silent killer of first impressions. I once had coffee with Derek, 58, retired Navy officer, sharp mind, great stories, and honestly, one of the most solid men I've ever met. He was telling me about a woman he met at a wine tasting event. Their initial chat went well, lots of laughs, good eye contact. He asked her out for dinner the next weekend. She agreed, but canceled a day later. No reschedule, no follow-up, just a vague, hey, something came up, maybe another time. Derek was baffled. We clicked. I know we did. What happened? I didn't say anything right away, but I remembered what I noticed when we met. Stained shirt, untrimmed beard, fingernails a little neglected. He looked tired, slouched, kind, yes, but like someone who'd stopped paying attention. And that's when I realized it wasn't what he said. It was what he silently showed. Here's the truth, one that most men don't like to hear. You don't have to be conventionally attractive, but you do have to show that you give a damn about how you present yourself. Because women, especially younger women, are not just scanning your face or your hairline. They're scanning for energy, for effort, for self-respect. Do you look like you take care of yourself? Do you walk into the room with quiet strength? Do you show up in a way that makes her feel safe, intrigued, proud to be seen with you? Your physical presence is the doorway. If it's neglected, she may never walk through it. No matter how interesting you are inside, you don't need a six-pack or Botox. You need to refine, not reinvent. Get a modern, age-appropriate haircut. Clean lines matter. Groom your beard, trim your nails, refresh your breath. Dress for fit, not for flash. Well-fitted, neutral colors. Classic over trendy. Focus on posture, shoulders back, chin up. Move with calm purpose. Take care of your body, not to look younger, but to move, live, and love with more energy. Because how you treat yourself tells her how you'll treat her. Your appearance isn't about vanity. It's about respect. For yourself, for the moment, for the woman across from you. Looking your best doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means showing her that you still care enough to show up fully, for yourself and for her. A man who invests in himself is a man who others want to invest in too. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I've got the look, I'm confident in my age, I'm listening more than talking. I'm not trying to impress, just connect. But there's one more invisible element that can elevate everything, or quietly sabotage it all. It's not about your body, not about your bank account, not about your words. It's about your emotional availability. And it's what we're diving into next. Emotional availability, the one trait that beats looks, age, or money. A few years ago, I met a woman named Elise at a leadership retreat. She was 32, warm, confident, the kind of woman who sees through surface-level charm in about 10 seconds. We got into a deep conversation about dating, specifically about her experiences with older men. She said something that stuck with me. They have everything on paper: success, maturity, presence, but so many of them feel locked, like there's a wall I'm not allowed to touch. I asked her what she meant. They don't share anything real. They're polite, generous, even protective, but it's like they're never truly there. I end up feeling like I'm dating their representative, not them. See, many older men were raised with a powerful but outdated belief. Strong men don't show emotion, so they shut down anything vulnerable. They avoid talking about pain, failure, loneliness, or fear. And even when they're physically present, they're emotionally unavailable. The problem? You can't connect with someone who isn't open. Women, especially younger women, are drawn to emotional depth, not oversharing, not drama, not wounds that never healed, but the kind of strength that says, I've been through stuff, I've felt things, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. That level of openness builds trust, and trust is the foundation of real, lasting attraction. You don't need to pour out your heart on the first date. You just need to let her see the man behind the mask. Try this. When she asks about your past, don't just list facts. Tell a short, honest story. When you talk about challenges, include how they made you feel, not just what you did. If something she says resonates with you emotionally, say so. Show her you're listening with your heart, not just your ears. Example, instead of, yeah, divorce is tough. We just grew apart. Try. It was hard. Letting go felt like failure at the time. But it also taught me how to be a better communicator. Took me a while to see that. Simple, human, real. Emotional availability isn't weakness. It's maturity. It says, I know who I am. I've felt deeply. I've healed. And I'm still open to connection. And when a woman feels emotionally safe around you, she relaxes. She trusts. She opens up. And that's when the real magic happens. You want to be the man she feels most herself around, not the one she has to impress. Now, here's something that often gets overlooked. You've done the work, you've become more open, more grounded, more present, but if your life lacks direction, if there's no sense of drive, growth, or purpose beyond dating, she'll feel it. Because nothing is more attractive than a man who's centered in his mission, not chasing validation, not having a life. Why purpose-driven men are more attractive than ever. A few months ago, I had a long lunch with Sam, 54, recently retired from a high-pressure finance job. He was in great shape, emotionally aware, well-traveled, everything on the attractive older man checklist. But his dating life was a dead end. I keep getting the same feedback. He told me, they say I'm kind, interesting, but it just doesn't feel exciting. What does that even mean? We sat with that for a moment. And then I asked, what does your life look like outside of dating right now? He paused, then smiled sheepishly. Honestly, not much. I fill my time with errands, Netflix, and swiping apps. I haven't done anything for me in a while, and there it was. Here's something many men don't realize. Women aren't just attracted to what you give them. They're drawn to what drives you. Having a mission, whether it's a business, a creative pursuit, a sport, a cause, or even a personal growth goal, makes you radiate direction and passion. It's not about being busy. It's about being lit up by something beyond her. You become more attractive not when you chase her, but when you invite her into a life that's already rich with meaning. When a man has no direction, no spark, no forward motion, it subtly communicates that he's looking for her to fill the gap. And no woman wants to feel like your entire joy, validation, or future depends on her presence. You don't need to start a company or write a novel tomorrow, but you do need to reconnect with what energizes you. Ask yourself, what used to light me up that I've let go of? What am I curious about now that I've never explored? What kind of man do I want to be 5 years from now? It could be small, learning guitar, joining a running group, mentoring kids in your community, building a small side business. Whatever it is, build a life that feels fulfilling, even without romance, because ironically, that's when romance tends to arrive. You don't need to impress her with status. You just need to live a life that feels rich and intentional, one that moves forward with or without her. When you do, your energy shifts. You become more grounded, more magnetic, more clear, because a man on a mission doesn't need to chase, he attracts. So by now, you're doing the internal work. You've let go of the performance. You've built a better presence, cultivated emotional depth, and reignited your sense of purpose. But there's still one final piece, one that sounds so simple, yet few men actually practice it. Real-world exposure, putting yourself out there, consistently, not to win, but to normalize, playing the numbers game, why confidence grows from practice, not perfection. Let me tell you about Rob. 51, a private guy from Chicago who'd recently started dating again after a long marriage. He was smart, kind, and had done the work. He owned his age, he dressed well, he was emotionally available. But every time he went on a date, he froze up, overanalyzed every word, took rejection personally. And when things didn't go anywhere, he felt defeated for days. When I asked how often he interacted with women in everyday life, baristas, strangers at the gym, neighbors, his answer was telling. Almost never. I only talk to someone when I think it could go somewhere. That right there, the high-stakes mindset, and it's one of the biggest confidence killers out there. A lot of older men treat each dating opportunity like it's an audition for marriage. And that kind of pressure shows the stakes get too high. You start clinging to outcomes. You obsess over what went wrong. And slowly, your energy shifts from grounded to grasping. Here's the truth. You don't build confidence by hoping the next date goes perfectly. You build confidence by normalizing connection, over and over again. It's not about chasing women. It's about learning to interact freely, without fear, attachment, or overthinking. Start talking to women without an agenda. Compliment someone's book at the coffee shop. Chat with the woman walking her dog at the park. Ask the woman behind you in line how long she's been coming to this cafe. Not to impress, not to flirt, just to practice being present with feminine energy. The more you do it, the more grounded and natural you'll feel. Conversations won't feel high stakes. Beauty won't intimidate you. You'll realize she's just a person, and I'm just a man, here to connect, And from that place, real attraction happens. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build, and you build it by showing up again and again, imperfect but available. Not by chasing perfection, but by becoming so comfortable in your own skin that you no longer need every moment to go somewhere. You're not auditioning for approval. You're connecting for the sake of connection itself. And ironically, that's the very thing that makes you magnetic. So there you have it. 10 mistakes older men make with younger women, and 10 ways to turn those habits into confidence, connection, and clarity. But more importantly than fixing mistakes, what you've really done here is begin a shift from proving yourself to being yourself, from chasing youth to embodying wisdom, from waiting for the perfect moment to becoming the kind of man who creates them.